the Egyptian cook, and for today's live, we will be making Egyptian kishk. Kishk is essentially a creamy porridge-like dip, and it's really popular in Egyptian culture, more so on the countryside regions of Egypt, also known as the Beled in Arabic. So we are making kishk for today's live. It's a very simple process. It essentially consists of making fresh chicken broth alongside bechamel sauce. So those are the two primary foods or ingredients that go into making kishk. Then you essentially combine it all together to form the porridge-like dip. So let's go ahead and get started with today's live. I will be recording on my main camera as well as we are doing this. This will be an actual recipe video that I post to all my social media platforms, as well as my website, theegyptiancook.com. As we go through and with today's live, I'll be taking those shots that I need, so that way we can also work towards making that final cut that will be posted to all of my social media platforms. So let's go ahead and get started. If you've seen any of my lives before, first thing that I do when it comes to creating these recipe videos is I record all of my voiceover audio. As you can see here, I have page after page of all my notes of everything that will be done. And if you're wondering why the font size is so large, this is Arial 28-point font. The reason why the font size is so large is because I am legally blind. I was diagnosed with Stargardt's disease at a young age, which is a form of macular degeneration. I still have some of my vision. The vision that I do have left is blurry, so I just have to do things a little bit differently. One of those when it comes to reading large size font. So let's go ahead and get started. I need to hook up my camera first. So that is up. I need to plug in 2 cords. Black one connects it to this monitor, and the red one is for the battery. Turn this off. Let me unplug my refrigerator too, because it does make a lot of noise when the motor kicks on. And I don't like having that interference and noise when it comes to my voiceover audio. Lights, just gonna turn on these ones for now. Help me see what I am reading. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Kishk is a creamy, tangy porridge-like dish. You know what? Let me get rid of these two. I'll just do it all in one clip and pause instead of doing, I'll just pause in my speech instead of recording each one as its own clip. Let's try it that way, just to get that better flow. Kishk is a creamy, tangy porridge-like dish that is rich, comforting, and often topped with golden fried. Nope. All right, let's get rid of this one. There are so many pauses in this sentence. So I should record it all separately. All right, let's try this again. Kishk is a creamy, Tangy porridge-like dish that is rich, comforting, and often topped with golden fried onions. All right, much better. One whole chicken goes in a large pot. Add yellow onion, dried bay leaves, cardamom and cloves, sea salt, black pepper, and enough water to cover the chicken. Bring it to a boil. Then turn the heat down to medium-low. Put the lid partially on. Melt semna in a pot over medium heat and stir in flour. Cook it for a few minutes while frequently mixing it until it lightly browns and produces a nutty fragrance. This is called a roux. Slowly pour in milk while you whisk it, not whisk the. Let's try that one again. Slowly pour in milk while you whisk it to avoid clumps from forming. Slowly pour in milk while you whisk it to avoid clumps from forming. Excuse me. Season it with sea salt and black pepper. Continue whisking it while it simmers until it reduces, not produces. Let's try this one again. Until it reduces, not produces. All right, take two. Continue whisking it while it simmers until it reduces to a creamy bechamel-like consistency. So I wrote bechamel-like. I'm going to say bechamel sauce-like consistency. So let's try that one again. Continue whisking it while it simmers until it reduces to this creamy bechamel sauce-like consistency. Let me try it again and change my tone a little bit. Take 7. Continue whisking it while it simmers until it reduces to this creamy bechamel sauce-like consistency. Now add in homemade chicken broth. Let it reach a low simmer. And allow it time to reduce and thicken to a creamy porridge-like consistency. Remove the chicken from the broth. And fry it in semna to give it some nice color and flavor. For the final step, fry diced onions in semna for several minutes until it becomes golden brown. To serve kishk, transfer it to a bowl. Garnish it with the fried onions. Let me change my tone with how I said garnish it with the onions. Garnish it with the fried onions. Pair it with fresh pita bread or beledi. Supposed to say beledi bread. I don't know why I just like stopped in the middle of the word. Let's try this again. All right, take 2. Pair it with fresh pita bread or beledi bread. Nope. Let's try this again. Pair it with fresh pita bread or beledi bread. And the chicken as well. Egyptian style kishk. All right, that completes all of my voiceover audio recordings. So let's go ahead, tilt this to the side like so. Let's go ahead, turn this as well. So I'm actually going to temporarily turn this camera off I'm also going to bring you guys over here. So let's go on a quick little field trip to over here. I'm going to plug you guys in as well to charge the batteries. Just give me one moment as I do that. And right now, after I do this, we're going to essentially prepare the onions for this next portion. Cutting board. Knife. Here, let me adjust you guys a little bit up. And then we'll tilt you down. All right. So first things first, one of these onions will be diced and the other one will just be peeled, and we're going to keep it whole. The little one I'm going to use for the chicken broth, and the larger one, it's going to be diced and fried towards the end of the recipe, the tail end of the cooking process. We're just going to dice and fry it, and it's going to be used as garnish. So let's go ahead and get these onions ready, and then we can start working on preparing the chicken broth. For those of you just joining in, welcome to my kitchen. I am Muhammad the Egyptian Cook, and for today's live, we are making Egyptian style kishk, which is essentially, kishk is a creamy porridge-like dip, like appetizer and dip. It's popular in Egyptian culture, primarily in the Beled, which Beled is Arabic for like the countryside or village parts of Egypt. So we're right here at the beginning of the preparation to make Egyptian style kishk. So this onion will go towards the chicken broth. And then this onion will be saved for the end, where we will fry it and then use it as garnish for the dip. All right, I'm going to go clear off the cutting board. Be right back. And I'm back. Now let's dice this onion. All right, I think this should be okay. For the diced onions, we will be coming back to this towards the end of the cooking process. So let's go ahead and set this to the side. All right, and now I need to bring the countertop stove over. Let me wash my hands really quick. All right, now let's bring the countertop stove over here. I need a large pot as well. I need to turn this camera back on. All right, what else do I need? Let me adjust this slightly down. Oh, too far down. Back up. This can come off. We'll go to the side for now. All right. I need to open this. This is one whole chicken right here. Be right back. Make sure there's nothing inside. Be right back again. this here. Actually, I need to wipe down the counter from all this mess. Chicken goes. Adjust this camera just a little bit more. Okay, let's do this. One whole chicken goes in a large pot. See how it looks. One whole chicken goes in a large pot. Okay, let me wash my hands, be right back. Chicken goes in a large pot. Okay. I need to adjust the camera angle so now it's focused on inside the pot. So just give me one moment, please, as I make some adjustments. Actually, just going to bring this up like so. Down. I'm also going to bring you guys up so that way you can have a better point of view inside the pot as well. Just let me get this situated first, and then I will take you guys on a little field trip as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me move some of this stuff out of the way so that way I can bring you guys up onto the counter to give you a better point of view. This I need. These I need as well. This I need. This can stay there. And I need, let's see, salt and black pepper. All right. All right, folks. Little field trip. Tilt you guys down. Oops. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. So we're going in this order. We're going yellow onion, dried bay leaves, cardamom and cloves, sea salt, black pepper, and then water. So let's do this. That was the yellow onion. Up next, some dried bay leaves. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oops. Spice cage for cardamom and cloves. So that's the cardamom. And then I'm also going to add the cloves in there too. Oops. Here's the cloves. In the spice cage it goes. So here's how it looks in the spice cage. Here you go, YouTube. Here you go, TikTok. This just makes it easier once the broth is made. You don't have to worry about the cardamom or cloves being mixed in with the actual broth that you use for like making soups or that you're actually going to be consuming. So this just makes it easier. All right, let's go ahead and get the shot that we need. All right, that was the cardamom and cloves. Up next is the sea salt. black pepper. And a whole lot of water. Enough water to cover the chicken. So it's basically going to take the full gallon, should at least, I'm guessing. Now I need to switch the camera angle. Give me one moment. I'm gonna keep you guys on the counter where you are. It's my main camera that I need to adjust temporarily to, oops, to show the flame. So just give me one moment, please, as we make these adjustments. All right, let's see how we look. Make another adjustment. Bear with me, please. Let's see how we look. Now I'm actually going to bring this over to the stove behind me, to my main stove, because I'm not going to use all this butane to heat it up. All right, so that's on the stove behind me. As you guys can see, here it is, right over here. So I have it on high heat. We're just going to let it reach a boil. We're going to take the shot that we need with my main camera, showing that it is boiling. And then we are going to start working on making first the roux, and then we're going to turn it into the bechamel sauce. And then we will go from there. So we're going to be making the bechamel sauce in this pot right here. So that's ready. We're going to need some milk as well, some whole milk. So that's there. These I don't need anymore. Let me go ahead and adjust my other camera while I'm at it. Turn it off for now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you just joining in, welcome to my kitchen. I am Mohammed the Egyptian Cook, and for today's live, we are making Egyptian style kishk, which is essentially a creamy porridge-like dip and appetizer. It's really popular in Egyptian culture, primarily on in the countryside regions of the country. So essentially known as the Beled in Arabic, which translates to like the countryside or villages of Egypt. So this is really popular in those regions, and that is what we are making in today's live. We're at the beginning stages of this recipe, but right now we're just working on making the chicken broth. That's what we have going on over here in this pot. We're just letting it reach a boil, and it's also going to be cooking. There's one whole chicken in here, as well as yellow onion, dry bay leaves, cardamom, cloves, sea salt, black pepper, and a whole lot of water. So we're going to be making the chicken broth here, as well as cooking the chicken. And then once this reaches a boil, we're going to switch over and start working on the bechamel sauce. So be right back, just grabbing the lid for this. Just kind of going to put it partially on, like so. Let's see, bring it to a boil, then turn the heat down to medium low. So I need a couple more shots. Once this reaches a boil, there are a few shots that we will need to take with my main camera. Put the lid on, blah, blah, blah. Now let's make the creamy porridge. All right. What time is it right now? 2:54. So in the next 5 minutes or so, this should reach that. Let me turn this all the way up. In the next like 5 minutes or so, this should reach a boil, hopefully. Then we're going to transition back over here to the countertop stove, and we're going to record those shots that we need. Then we're going to move on to making the bechamel sauce. And while we're working on that, we're going to move the chicken and the chicken broth back over here and just let it, low simmer as we're working on the bechamel. Let's see, need my, oops. Let's see. Measuring cup. And then we're also going to need this one later in the recipe for the chicken broth, once the chicken broth is up. Because we're essentially, Egyptian kishk is made of primarily two things: bechamel sauce and chicken broth, and then you garnish it with fried onions on top, and then you serve it with bread, like pita bread or beledi bread, aish beledi, alongside the chicken that you used for making the broth. Still no activity in the water, so just a few more minutes here and we should be good to go. For the bechamel, we have some flour and some semna. Semna is Arabic for clarified butter. It could also be used for when speaking about ghee. So semna, S-A-M-N-A. Anytime you hear me saying semna in any of my recipe videos, I am referring to clarified butter. This I prepared myself. It's a very simple process. To make clarified butter, you essentially take your traditional stick of butter, you melt it down on low heat, and then you will see the milk solids separate from the butter, and the water will evaporate as well. And you essentially harvest the clarified butter from the milk solids. You completely separate the two from each other. So when you separate it, you're left with the clarified butter. For making ghee, what you do is you melt the same stick of butter down. You let it cook for a little bit longer so it actually cooks those milk solids, and it kind of creates like that nutty flavor. and that's what makes ghee. So it's just an extra step beyond making clarified butter. But in Egyptian culture or in Arabic, we call it semna. It is interchangeable for those two types of butter. Still no bubbles forming yet for this. Here, I'll give you guys a quick look. So today's recipe video should be fairly simple in comparison to my other ones that are more involved, more in depth with layered, like with much more steps. Making kishk is fairly simple. So this one should not be so bad in terms of the process, and we will see how it turns out once it is complete. I am super excited for this one, and I hope you guys are too. Let's see, it is 2:59 right now. A few more minutes and this should be good to go. Going to need a spoon for the semna. This is the spoon that I usually use for the semna. This spoon is one of one. Used to use this when I was a little kid, and I still have it. All right, some kind of bubbles, like very light, are starting to form around the edges, so we are almost there. Right now we are just waiting for the chicken broth. Oh, essentially it's not broth yet, but for the water to reach a boil. So in this pot we have one whole chicken, one yellow onion, four dried bay leaves, 8 cardamom, 8 cloves, sea salt, black pepper, and 1 gallon of water. The sea salt and black pepper I did not measure. I just went for it, as I do for 99% of the time when I add seasonings. I do not measure, I just go for it. We are almost there. Maybe like 2-ish minutes. I'm guessing that this should reach that boil that we are waiting for. Let me grab a plate and just have this ready for the flour. Flour is ready, about half a cup. So let's just set that to the side. We're also going to need some whole milk. And then some sea salt and black pepper. So this is all going to go for the bechamel sauce, and of course some semna. So all of that is set to the side and ready. Just waiting on this to reach a boil. All right, we have a little bit more action going. Some of the bubbles are starting to move, so we are almost there with this. And then we're going to transition back over here. I'm going to rotate you guys so that way you can see the countertop stove, which is to my right, so technically your guys' is left. So I'm going to rotate you guys to give you a better point of view of what's going on in the pot and on the stove, on the stove and in the pot, and then we will go from there and start making some bechamel in this pot. This save it for later because we will need it for when it comes to frying the chicken. We're almost there. Just I keep on saying we're almost there, and I feel like, and we're probably not almost there. Who knows? There might, a disaster might happen in the kitchen, as it usually does whenever I'm cooking. So we'll see how it goes. A little bit more of the bubbles are moving from the sides, and some of this like foamy substance is forming on the top. I need to add a line where I say and remove and skim any of the foamy substance off the top, because originally I wrote bring it to a boil, then turn the heat down to medium low, put the lid partially on, and let this simmer for about 45 minutes. So I should say bring it to a boil and skim any of the foamy white substance off the top. Then turn, yep. So that's what I'll have to say. Bring it to a boil and skim any of the foamy white substance off the top. So here's a bowl for that. And then bowl and a spoon. Ready for that part. All right, I was about to say we're almost there, but I don't want to keep on saying that, but by me saying that, I just technically said it. So I kind of just, I just failed at, let's just leave it at that and just trust the process for this to reach the boil. So I originally thought it was going to be like about 5 minutes, and that would have been at 3 o'clock for this to reach a boil. It's now 3:07, soon to be 3:08. So my best educated guess was completely off. All right, now we got some bubbles moving over here, some over here. It's a little bit more consistent. There's a lot more of this foamy white substance. All right, let's turn on this camera. Let's get situated. All right, now we're talking. Oops. Let's see. TikTok wants me to do this puzzle thing. All right. Now we're talking. All right. Let me move this over. The handle on the left is super hot. All right. Let's tilt you guys, give you a better point of view. Let me adjust this camera angle. One moment, please, and then we'll turn the stove back on. And we will be good to go. Just give me one more moment. Flame is on. I'm just giving it some time to catch up. We're going to take the shot that we need, and then we're going to skim all of this foamy substance off the top. All right. All right, let's do this. All right, let's get the rest of this foam as best as you can. Just want to get the foam and try to get as little of the liquid as possible. All right. That's much better. I need to adjust this camera angle down. is the lid. Here's the lid. This way so you can actually see the bottom of the other. All right, I need to adjust this. Let's see how we look. All right, much better, I think. Put the lid partially on. And let this simmer for about 45 minutes. Let's see how we look. And let this simmer for about 45 minutes. All right, very good. All right, now I'm going to transfer this back to the stove behind me here. So let's go ahead and do that. This can go here. All right, so now that's going. Up next, let me just wipe down my area really quick. And then we can start working on the bechamel. Actually, while I'm at it, let me re-record that line, that missing line that I need. So let me push the camera back. Oh, oops. All right, let's try this again. All right, so bring it to the boil, bring it to a boil and skim any of the foamy white substance off the top. Bring it to a boil and skim any of the foamy white substance off the top. All right, that should be okay. Now this can go right here. Let me get myself set up for the bechamel sauce. Let me raise you guys up a little bit higher since this is a taller pot, so that way you can better see in there as we're cooking. All right, let me adjust this camera. Now let's make the creamy porridge. actually. Now let's make the bechamel sauce. All right, that should be good. Let me adjust this camera up to here, like so. Let's tilt this down. Oops. Just adjusting the angle and the zoom and the focus so it gets inside the pot as best as possible. All right, and you guys should be good as well. Let's turn this back on. Low heat. All right, let's do this. That is the semna, which is Arabic for clarified butter. This can go in the sink. I'm gonna wash my hands. Up next is the flour. Just another minute here, and we will add the milk. All right, up next is the sea salt and black pepper. That's the sea salt. That's the black pepper. Just give me one moment here. Let's turn this off, and then let's bring this over to the stove behind me. Let's temporarily turn this off. Bring this over here. And let's see until it reduces to consistency. And homemade. All right, so now essentially is the waiting game where for making the bechamel sauce, you want to frequently mix it. Let's see. 1 second. There we go. So for the bechamel sauce, while it's cooking, you want to frequently mix it, or whisk it, I should say. You don't want any clumps to form. So essentially, right now, it is still like very liquidy because we just added in the milk. And as it cooks over time, it will thicken and reduce, and that's what you want to happen. Over here in this giant pot, we have the chicken broth going. Let me turn up the temperature a little bit on this one. So in here we have 1 whole chicken, 1 whole yellow onion, cardamom, cloves, dried bay leaves, sea salt, black pepper, and a whole lot of water. So this is for the chicken broth, and in here we are working on the bechamel sauce. So I'm going to keep this one at like a medium to medium low heat, and this one is about the same, like a medium low. I did just turn up the temperature because I did have it like way too low, so I want there to be a little bit more like bubbling in for the simmering, for the simmer process, for the cooking process. All right, the water is a little bit more bubbly. So we're in a better place now with this. We still have about like 20-ish minutes or so for the chicken broth. I let it go for about 45 minutes. Well, at least 45 minutes, I should say. I think it's been about already like 15-ish minutes that this has been cooking for. I could check the timestamp on that on the camera when I took the shot to see the exact time. Actually, let's do that so I could have a better idea of what time, how long it's been going for. Let's see here. Where's that clip? All right, at the timestamps on this, so it's saying 2:56. That's when I moved it, but that's not accurate. The time on that is not accurate because it was like after 3 o'clock. It was like 3:07 or 3:08 from what I remember from when it was originally over here and it finally reached the boil. I don't know. It's been about 15 minutes. Just to say, it's been about 15 minutes. So we still have like another 25, 30 minutes for the chicken broth. So basically at 4 o'clock. Oh, now it's too violent of a boil. So at about 4 o'clock, we'll check on this again. And here we're working on the bechamel sauce, which is essentially made of semna, which is Arabic for clarified butter, mixed with flour that forms the roux, and then you incorporate the milk, you whisk it, and you season it with sea salt and black pepper. You let it cook for a little bit, and you frequently whisk it to allow it to reduce and essentially thicken into that creamier bechamel sauce consistency. So this is about halfway through the cook process for the chicken broth, and it's very fragrant and aromatic with all the spices. I use simple spices, just cardamom, cloves, sea salt, black pepper, and dried bay leaves for some flavor. But you can definitely smell the cardamom and cloves while this chicken broth is cooking. Once again, when making bechamel sauce, you want to make sure that you are frequently whisking it. This will help avoid any clumps from forming while it is cooking. It is starting to thicken up a little bit, but we want it to be a little bit thicker because once the chicken broth is made, we're actually going to add in some chicken broth with the bechamel sauce. That is essentially what kishk is. It's bechamel sauce mixed with chicken broth, and then you garnish it with fried onions. But we want the bechamel sauce to be thicker because once you add the chicken broth, it will make it thinner again by nature because you're adding more liquid to it. But then you want it to cook again for a little bit longer to allow it time to reduce and thicken once again. But this time it will now have like all the flavors of the chicken or the chicken broth, I should say, mixed in with it, and that essentially is what kishk is. Let me go ahead and make some adjustments to the positioning of this camera while I got some downtime. Oops. it's really starting to thicken. You can tell because of how when it's looser, like barely any of it will stick to the whisk. But when I pull it up, as you can see, a lot of it is starting to get caught in there. Just turning the heat down on the bechamel sauce. That's good to go. Let's see. This is what I will be using to serve the kishk in. The milk we no longer need. This can go back in the fridge. The bechamel sauce is looking good. Just turn the heat down a little bit lower because it is starting to get somewhat violent with the bubbles forming, so it's kind of like having, because it is thicker, so when it pops it splashes. So I'm just trying to reduce that to as much as possible. All right, in a few moments here, in a few minutes, I should say, we're going to move the bechamel back over here to the countertop stove. And I'm going to take the shot that I need of me just stirring it, but this time I'll be using a ladle just to show a scoop and me pouring it back into the pot to show that it is now thicker in that consistency and texture that that you want to reach when forming, when cooking and preparing and cooking bechamel sauce. Then we're going to incorporate some of this chicken broth. We're going to set this to the side. We're going to mix it, let it cook and reduce once again. And then we're going to fry the chicken up just in some semna, just to give, you know, the outside some color and flavor. And then we're going to fry up the onions, which we diced at the very beginning of this live, that I set to the side over here. So we're going to fry up some diced onions as well. So that went back. The diced onions are back on the kitchen table. Oops. Wash this. bechamel sauce is really thickened up. I just turned the heat all the way down to low as it can possibly go. Right now we're just waiting on chicken broth. Just turned up the heat just a little bit there. In about 5-ish, like 7 minutes, I want to say, we're going to move the bechamel over here to the countertop stove. We'll get those shots that we need, and then we will incorporate the chicken broth and move forward with finishing up the kishk. We are almost there, ladies and gentlemen. This is the bechamel sauce. It has definitely thickened up, which is good. Here, let me just a few more minutes here, and then we're going to go ahead and transition back over to the countertop stove, and we will take those shots that we need for the bechamel sauce, just showing that it has thickened. Essentially what I will do is I'll use, instead of using the whisk, I will use a ladle, give it a quick stir, scoop it up, and then pour it back into the pot. Kind of similar to what I just did here a minute ago, but using the whisk. But instead, for the final shot, I'll be using a ladle. And then we're going to bring over some of this homemade chicken broth, and we're going to mix it in with the bechamel sauce, which will essentially make the kishk. Once you incorporate the broth with the bechamel sauce, of course, you whisk it really well to mix all the ingredients and the flavors all together. And then you, once again, let it cook on like a medium-low heat to allow it to reduce and thicken to a porridge-like consistency texture. And once we have it mixed and cooking, we're going to bring it back over here to this stove, and then we're going to transition back over here to the kitchen island, and we're going to remove the chicken from the broth. We're going to cut it up into pieces, and then we're going to fry it in semna, which is Arabic for clarified butter. And then once we fry that up, we're going to set it to the side, and then we're going to fry up some diced onions just until they're about like golden brown in color. And then we're going to plate the kishk, and then we're going to garnish it with the fried onions, and then serve it alongside the chicken and some pita bread. And if you have aish bedadi, which is essentially bedadi bread, that's even better. But I will be serving it alongside pita bread. So we are almost there. Giving the bechamel sauce a whisk. Ladle. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Let's bring this over here. All right, let's turn on my other camera. Let's get the shot that we need. Very good. All right. Let's go. could just do it with the ladle. Or with the whisk, I mean. Let's do this. Oops. Alright, now add the homemade chicken broth. Each of those. Alright. Now let's transition back over here. I'm going to collect some chicken broth. Alright, got some homemade chicken broth. Let me bring you guys back over this way. I need to bring my camera up so now you can see inside the pot. Oops. So we just added the chicken broth, and see how it is no longer essentially sticking to the whisk. Now you just want to go through that process again to allow this time to cook. Keep it at like that medium-low simmer, which will allow it time to cook and evaporate a lot of that moisture like from the water, and it will naturally reduce and thicken once again. So that is what you want to happen. All right, I need to adjust the camera for this next shot. Bear with me as I make this adjustment. Oops. Let's see how we look. I need to make another adjustment. Let's see how it looks now. All right, let's do this. Oh, your whining voice is so annoying and disrespectful. Okay, halas, go buy some earplugs. Let me try that one again. Let's see if I can get some better delivery on the tone and body language. Oh, your whining voice is so annoying and disrespectful. Okay, halas, go buy some earplugs. I think that one is better. It felt better at least. Let's see. All right. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right, we can turn this off. This can go back onto the stove over here behind me. So let's take a quick field trip over here. Turn this back on to about medium low. Put this back on for the chicken. Right. All right, up next, we need to remove the chicken from the chicken broth. We need to cut it, fry it, and then we need to fry the onions, which are over there on the kitchen table. Oops. All right, need to bring this over there. This just go on the table. Just making some adjustments on the camera angle here. Just give me one more moment, please. And thank you. All right, let's see how we look. All right, that should be okay. Move the chicken out. I'm not going to use my bare hands. I'm just visualizing how it looks on the monitor. Oh boy, oh boy. Wouldn't that be something if I just straight up just grab the chicken out of here with my bare hands? Oh boy, oh boy. All right. I need some sort of dish over here. This I'm just going to set back on the stove behind me. We no longer need it. I'm going to repurpose that chicken broth for something else, not in this live, but for something else. I'll probably make morcilla or something like that with it. Turn off this camera because I don't need it right now. Let's So right now we need to cut this chicken. Let me give the bechamel, or the kishk I should say now, a mix, a whisk. Here's an update of how it looks. Still needs time to thicken up. So we'll bring it back to the stove behind me and just let it cook. Right now I have it at about like a medium low cooking temperature. I'll show you. Instead of this, I'll use oops. Actually, this is still super hot. Every time I reach into it, it is scorching hot. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I need to give it a minute so I can actually hold on to this and cut it. I'm still going for it. I need to. It's still hot. Need to get rid of all this broth. Just pouring it back in the pot. Oops. I'm going to give the kishk a whisk as well. It is starting to slightly thicken, which is good. All right, now back to this madness. Oops. I'm no professional at cutting chicken, at cutting a whole chicken, so it is what it is. All right, that is what I'll be frying. This I will clean up later, all the bits and pieces off of that. Let me go wash the knife and my hands. I'm also going to give the kishk a whisk. Move this to the side. Move this to the side as well. I need to clean up my space. back to the countertop stove. All right, now we're going to fry the chicken just for a few minutes on each side just to give it some color. And then we're going to take that out of here, then we're going to fry the onions in here. So let me go ahead and turn on the stove, or not the stove, the camera again, then I'll turn on the stove. Just washing the spoon for the semna. Going to give the kishk a nice whisk. All right. Just letting the chicken cook for just a couple minutes on each side in semna, just to give it some color and some extra flavor. Then after this, we are going to fry the diced onions. About 1 to 2 more minutes, and we'll give it a flip. I'm going to give the kishk a whisk while we're waiting. All right, let's go ahead and give it a flip. Just a couple minutes and we'll remove it. And I have the last chicken breast off to the side here. We're going to fry that up as well. And then we're going to work on the onions. So here's the chicken. We're just waiting on the last chicken breast. Then we will move on to the onions. About 1 to 2 more minutes, and then we will remove this. All right, chicken's all set. Let's just set this to the side over here. This plate I no longer need. I'm going to give the Kishk a whisk while I'm at it. All right, this heat is off for now. Take that piece out. I'm going to wipe this off very quickly here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Right now, we are going to fry up some onions. going to add just a little bit more samna. And when I say a little bit more, I mean a lot more. All right. Now wash your hands. We are all set for the semna. We only use like half the jar. Let me give the kish a whisk while we're at it. The kish is looking and smelling good, and it is starting to really thicken up. Not as thick as what the bechamel sauce was on its own, but it is starting to thicken up. Let me turn up this heat. Right now we are just frying the onions until they are golden brown. The onions will be used as garnish for the end. And right below you guys, I have this dish that I will use to serve the kish in. I also need for the pita bread over here. Yallah, bismillah. Going to give the kishk another whisk. Oh, here's the spoon. The onions are starting to get some color, which is good. But I'm going to let it cook for a little bit longer. More color. Couple more minutes on the onions, then we'll remove it from the heat, and then we will circle back to the kishk, which is on the stove behind me. We're going to check it out, and then we are going to plate it. Just a little bit more color for the onions. And then we will move forward. I cut pita bread into quarters. So that is ready. The chicken is to my side over here on the kitchen table. The kishk is behind me. Onions are in front of me. And there are dishes everywhere. So all is good in the kitchen. Alright, going to grab a dish for these onions. Since we're at the tail end of the cooking process for the onion, I am frequently mixing it to avoid it from burning. I want to get it as golden brown as possible. Go ahead and turn off this heat. all of these onions out of here. And then we will bring the kishk back over. All right, we have some onions that we will use for garnish once we plate the kishk. All right, I no longer need this pot. I need to get it out of the way. Just set it to the side over here on the table. All right, I need to clean up my space. Be right back. Oh boy, oh boy. All right. I need to adjust the camera. Let's go ahead and get this shot in that we need. try that one again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind, as this cools, it will thicken. All right, let's go ahead and work on plating this. So I no longer need this whisk. Moving some things around. All right, let's see what I said earlier. To serve quiche, transfer it to a bowl, garnish it with the fried onions, pair it with fresh pita bread or beledi bread, and the chicken as well. Let me get the chicken better situated while we're at it. Where did I put the tongs? There we go. Let me grab a different plate. Let's try this again. No longer need the countertop stove. We are all set with that. Get that out of the way. I'll set that right there. Here, let me bring you guys down a little bit. All right, I need to also adjust the camera angle for my main camera. I think I was recording the whole time with this. Yep, I was recording the whole time. Oh boy, fun, fun, fun. Let's see. All right, let's do this. Nope, too low. Let me get rid of that one. Oops, wrong button. All right, let's try this again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. And of course, the first scoop I spilled some on the side. Oh my goodness. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. zoom this out because I need the bread now and also the chicken. I should put this in front, like so. I need to adjust the camera angle. Just give me one moment, please. All right, let's try this again. So, let's move that over, place it like that. Let me try this again. Get rid of that clip. I need to adjust the camera. Just for the final shots for what I will use for the thumbnail of the video. All right, let's see how we look. Oops. tilted horizontal shot. I need to get the picture that I'm going to be using for my YouTube thumbnail. Oops. It's like playing musical chairs, but trying to position everything for this shot. Just let me adjust the focus. Just adjusting my camera. Once again. Oops. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Here you go, YouTube. I'll give you the first look. Egyptian style kishk. Here you go, TikTok. Egyptian style kishk. So I just have a few different recording lines I need to record that we can say Yalla Bismillah and we can eat. All right, where's the remote? Here we go. I need to tilt, because I can't tilt the bowl because otherwise it will spill. So I actually need to raise the camera angle up a little bit and then tilt it down. I need to go slightly a little bit more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. You have to try this Egyptian food. Let's make this Egyptian style kishk. Let's see how it looked. You have to try this Egyptian food. Let's make this Egyptian style kishk. Okay. You have to try this Egyptian food. Let's make this Egyptian style kishk. You can find the full extended video of how I made the chicken broth on my website and YouTube at The Egyptian Cook. You can find the full extended video for how I made the chicken broth on my website and YouTube at The Egyptian Cook. The link is in my bio. Let me make sure I just said everything right, I hope. You can find the full extended video for how I made the chicken broth on my website and YouTube at The Egyptian Cook. The link is in my bio. Very good. Yalla bismillah. Yalla bismillah. Yalla bismillah. Yalla bismillah. You have to try this Egyptian food. Let's make this Egyptian style kishk. All right, one last look before I do some damage. Egyptian style kishk. Here you go, YouTube. Here you go, TikTok. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go wash my hands and mouth. Let me bring you guys a little bit closer. Let me move some of this out of the way. All right, that concludes today's live where we made this Egyptian style kishk. Well, before I devoured about half of it just now. It is essentially a creamy porridge like dip and appetizer, popular in Egyptian culture, primarily in the countryside or the bedded, the villages of Egypt, or the countryside, however you want to translate the word bedded. So that is what we made in today's live. It is essentially a mixture of bechamel sauce and chicken broth until it is thickened into this porridge-like creamy consistency. And you serve it in a bowl with fried onions on top, and then alongside pita bread or bedadi bread and the chicken that you used for the broth. So that's it for today's live. Thank you for everybody who joined in today. The full recipe video will post to all of my social media platforms this coming Thursday. I will actually post early on YouTube. For any of my paid members, you will have access to the full video by tomorrow. For everybody else, it will post on Thursday. So thank you everybody who joined in today. Once again, I am Muhammad the Egyptian Cook. Thank you for being part of my kitchen today, watching me make this Egyptian style kishk. It will post to my social media platforms this coming Thursday and by tomorrow for all of my paid members on YouTube. Thanks again to everyone and have a wonderful night.